everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Learning Kitchen Live. I am Beth, one of the dietitians here at Community Servings, and today we have a guest chef Michelle White, the owner of Next Step Soul Food Kitchen Café in Dorchester. And she also happens to be a graduate of our Teaching Kitchen program. So she's very familiar with the work that we do here at Community Servings. And today she is going to be making some soul food recipes in honor of Black History Month. So she's going to be making some recipes out of this book that she was a contributor to. It is called In the Kitchen. And it was created to support breast cancer research. So she's going to be making 2 recipes from that book. But I'm going to turn it over to Michelle, but I have a question. So we're talking about soul food.
Yes.
And for those who might not know, like, what do we mean by soul food?
Okay. I get that question a lot. I believe I can tell you the difference. There's soul food and then there's southern food. Soul food is more of the African American diaspora. As we moved around the United States, as we moved around the world, we carried parts of our cuisine with us. Southern food is regional, it's what we do there, but that does that as well.
Okay.
But for me, it's like no matter where you go, you always remember how mama and grandma and everybody had access to certain foods, and that's what was their choice and their preference, and they passed it down to you, and you pass it down. So that's kind of like how I describe it, because soul food is so much to so many. I don't want to ever put soul food in a box, I just want people to grab it and make it part of themselves and make it their own.
Fabulous.
So, yes.
So why don't you tell us about the recipes that you're going to make today?
Yes, the first recipe that I'm really going to make is called turnip greens and turnip bottoms. Okay, turnips are a green, and it's also in the the collard, the mustard family, and it's a big leafy vegetable that kind of grows. It's not quite under the soil, but it's on top of the soil. So you'll get the bottom is a purple top of it, and it's a root. So basically, you pull it up, and you can eat what grows up top, and you can eat what's just right there in the soil. So, and I believe the reason why it was so popular in the southern regions of the United States was because this is a high yield kind of a, vegetable. You plant it, you can get at it quickly. It takes, just a couple of months before it's ready. You can actually just clip them, and it'll keep growing until the end of the seasons. So that's why. And also you can eat the bottom. That the people would do that for their livestock. People would put it in their root cellars. There's so many soups, and there's so many recipes that people would pickle them. Studying Korean culture and how they love turnips and turnip bottoms and different type of daikons and radishes and things of that kind of nature. So yeah, it's used all over. So that's what I'm gonna do. And it's the recipe is really basic. I mean, you could use definitely collard greens. I mean, a lot of people love collard greens, but if you don't have access to collard greens, you can use turnip greens. You can use mustard greens, and turnips are basically just leafy. You open it up, it has a long stem. Most people would just crack it apart and use this part here, and you don't even need a knife. You can just pull it apart. And this bad boy is like a superfood. It's just high in so many calcium, vitamin K, vitamin A, potassium, not to mention lupin. I think it's lupine, kind of like protein, lupine, which is really, really good, and helps with eyesight and different things.
Lutein.
Lutein,
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, so they're calling it the miracle food, turnip greens in particular.
Wow.
Yes, and anything that's dark and leafy is just
of
good.
course.
And when you turn my age, fiber is your friend. So
We talk about that a lot.
yes, fiber is your friend. Please do not underestimate the power of fiber. So yes, so as we're talking here, I definitely have on my oil, any kind of oil, vegetable oil, corn oil. My preference is peanut oil, but if there's anyone with allergies and things like that, you want to be sensitive to that. And that's going to be for the shrimp, so I just had to turn that on first. This right here, basically, onions. I have them cut up rather large because turnip greens, and when you cook them for a substantial amount of time, at least an hour. And I don't want things to be too small that it disintegrates. But that's fine too. If you really like it finer, you can chop it up finer. And then if you can zoom in here a little bit more, see, this is some of the stalks that are more tender. They're a little bit smaller than that. I cut them up and I throw them in a pot because that's what we call the base of pot liqueur, pot liquor. So if you have cornbread, which is an accompaniment to the turnip greens, this is basically meant to be a dinner in and of itself. You know what I mean? You have the smoked meat, if you prefer that. If not, you can omit that. And then this right here with a piece of cornbread, you're all set.
Oh, delicious.
So, and then basically that's the end of that. The only thing I can say about turnip greens is just be careful. What my mom does, she would sit down and just don't rush. You take it and you just take it with a towel first. And you're gonna, let me see if I can do it here. You're gonna just kind of inspect it and kind of wipe it because there are little insects and bugs that tend to like to congregate in these little pieces that you wouldn't even know until you would wipe it and you're like, oh, okay. Or just sometimes it's just not sand or grit or anything like that. This is something I do pre-washing before you wash. And then once you wash them, you put them in a little bit of cold water with just some salt, and you just let it sit, and you will be amazed at what just settles to the bottom. And what I've learned from community servings is when you put things in a bowl with water, you want to lift up whatever it is out. Don't tip it over because what you're doing is introducing the sand and the grit back into your product. So that's something I had to learn real early.
Yeah.
It's a cheat, it's a shortcut. So. But that works out. So that's all it is to the, I could talk about the turnip bottom, sorry. Now here, I wish I had a turnip to show you, but my local grocer had these really gnarly looking ones. So I decided to just cut them up and let you know this is bite size, Not too small because they will just disintegrate, they'll be gone. Bite size like that. And turnips it's an interesting texture, an interesting flavor. I love them. I just eat all the turnips out of the pot. And my family's like, who ate all the turnips? It's usually me. So it's an interesting, almost, I wouldn't say potato-like. It's almost like between a potato and a squash texture. That's how I kind of equate it to. So yes, so that's what we're doing. That's our first dish. And right here, and then we'll get to that differently. But I'm gonna need your help.
Awesome.
So what we're going to do is we're going to get on these shrimps. Right here is a bag of, I don't even know what kind of shrimp it is. Some people love the Gulf shrimp, which I do, which is really prevalent from where my grandmothers lived in South Carolina. But up here, it's whatever was in that bag. And also what I did, I went ahead and I kind of butterflied it a little bit. And what you do is you just take the knife and you just cut a little bit more down. It makes for a prettier presentation and quicker cooking, because that's what you want to do with shrimp. You want to put it in to the oil, but you want it to be in there just for a little bit and take it right back out. So I'm going to get you to help me with the dredge. I'm going to use 2 eggs and then about half of that milk.
Okay, so the
Right
eggs in there.
Yep. Right in there. So this is my mother's favorite. Even though I only allow her to have this once or twice a month. She tells me, I want some shrimp. And I'm like, Ma, next week. I kind of put her off to the next week, because it is,
You want the milk in with the eggs too?
Yes. It is kind of, as far as frying things, as you get older, you have to watch that. Yeah. So you can do half of that. And then my thing is, like with all stuff, layers of flavor. Now the shrimp is really not seasoned well, because I feel like as far as salt, I mean, you get things from the ocean, it's already done for you. But there's flavor like onion powder, garlic powder, maybe some white pepper. Sometimes I use black pepper. and I just kind of lightly toss it in there and put it in a bag, close it up, keep it nice and cold on top of some ice in your refrigerator. If you have a cold spot in your refrigerator, which I do, I keep it right there. So this is the eggs, the milk, and then over here is my secret. I'm giving y'all a little bit of secret. It is a real secret. This is corn flour. I really don't, me personally, growing up, cornmeal was my enemy because the grittiness, you know, I was real sensitive to that. So my mom, that's her down in South Carolina, that kind of like heavily, it's not heavily, it's like a coarsely milled corn meal was the way to go. But I kind of changed it up a little bit to what I like, which is corn flour. So I put in here corn flour, and then I put regular AP flour, and I kind of mix it together. And my little extra secret here is that I'm going to put in some cornstarch. I'm going to add it to that. So I usually do a 50-50 as far as corn flour to corn to regular AP flour, and then I just do maybe like a cup and a half or 2 cups of cornstarch. It just it lightens up an already lightened dredge. So we just toss it up, and what I'm going to get you to do is take a little bit of this and add it to that dredge, to the egg wash. So, yeah. And I usually just do like a tablespoon. And I really don't know why, but I feel like it sticks to the shrimps a little bit better if it has some of this product in it.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get you to do a little bit more. You have to kind of eyeball it. We're not looking for pancake batter. We're just looking for just a little bit. I'm gonna grab a little bit right here, just in case. Put it in there. Yep. And I think that's it. Just something for it to hold on to. So let's see what we're working with over here. Oh, yes. That's right where I want it. That's where I want it. So I'm going to take out the first couple. And the size of these shrimps are 16-20, which is really not that big, but they're not that small. You know, if I'm going to have shrimp, I really want shrimp. But I actually don't want something looking like a lobster. What's it, Lagostina? That big. But this is perfect for me. Yeah. So I take out a couple, and I might want to put that in there. So I usually just reserve a little bit for over here. That's it. Okay, so I don't know, sometimes, not sure, sometimes I add the shrimp to the dredge first, then in the egg wash, back into the dredge. But it all depends on how I'm feeling. If I really want a thicker coat, that's the way I would do it. If I just want a regular coat, I'll do it. More crispiness. If you want it more crispy, you would kind of throw it in the dredge first, like this. We do a couple in there. Then you can add it to the eggs. Right there. A couple of those you can add that in there. Yep. I just coat it up. Yep. And when I do that, I pop it right back in there. It's weird, but it's what I do. Yep. And then I'm going to push right there. Now, something that I've learned throughout the years, because I've been cooking this for a while, is the fact that I allow the shrimp to rest for maybe a minute or two, so that that egg and that the milk and the coating can kind of settle a little bit, and I can work through the batch that I cook them in batches. So should I help you? Because I'm gonna get all.
Am I slow?
No. I think we're right at the amount. Now figure out, see, this pot is kind of shallow. It's a deep pot. It's my daddy's pot. It's a deep pot, but at the same time, it has a really thick bottom. And I just don't want my shrimp to kind of catch fire when I throw them in there.
And what temperature is good for the oil?
I'm pretty high on it, so I do anywhere from 365 to 375.
Okay.
I kind of let it go that way because we're going to put in about 10 to 12 shrimp, and you want to do it in batches because I think that's the secret. Sometimes we're in such a rush to make it happen and get that dinner on the table to eat those delicious shrimps that we crowd it, and once they're going to kind of get rid of all their juices and at the same time crisp up, but they're rubbing against each other and they're just going to just fall off. You're going to see a lot of your dredge and a lot of your wonderful taste on the bottom of that. So
Doesn't overcrowding it also make the oil get cooler? And
yes, it'll slow down the cooking process. Yeah.
I don't do a lot of frying, but I am very fascinated by this.
Yes. And now these are like for special occasions, if we have like fish fries and stuff. Now what we're doing today is that, you could kind of take the dredge, add some more seasoning into it, which I would if I was home. And then also the egg batter, you could add a little seasoning to it, and that's wonderful right there. But we're going to go light, and now I'm cooking for my mom a lot and trying to, get her to have healthy choices. So if she's going to go fry, it might as well be with the lower sodium option. So,
Definitely.
yes. So those are looking great.
So if someone didn't want to fry these, would baking it work?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you could just bake. I just season it up, and I just put it on a pan, even like this, and you can just drop it right in the oven.
How long would that take?
Yes, very quickly. I would pop it up, the temperature up to like 425, and I would definitely keep an eye on it, but less than 15, maybe 10 minutes if your oven is really ready to go. Oh, see there?
Right in that fingers.
Right there. So I think we have enough for the first batch.
All right.
And the bad boy is ready. But let's do a taste tester, like a test run.
So you didn't put any salt into the batter?
Yep, nothing. We're doing it the low sodium. You don't have to. You can add it to it, but the shrimps are pretty seasoned.
Okay.
And so we're going to try. We're going to drop it in. If you want to come up closer. Just not dropping it in. Oh, yeah. We're so ready. The taste tester is going to go in with the rest of his friends. We're just going to drop it in. Drop it away from you, but I don't want to have it pop. Okay. So now I'm noticing that it's getting a little cool. So I'm not put quite all of these in there. Okay. So I usually would do one of these bad boys, the tongs. And here's the trick. Take them out right when they get that first crunch, coat. And you're thinking, there's no way that can be done. It's shrimp. It's done. So hold on just a second. I'm going to turn down this. Actually, I'm going to leave it. That's just how it is. And then we're going to let this sit for 1 minute. And then we're going to pop them right back in. There's something about that crunch when you kind of double fry it. I don't want to say double fry it, but it's kind of like you fry it a little bit, that par fried, and then you just pop it back in for that extra crispiness. It all depends on how crispy you like it. So if you come in closer, these look like it's almost done. Like it could be just ready to eat right away. Okay. So I'm going to take this. Now if you notice that there's little specks in your oil, I like to keep a clean oil. You just take them, spread them out. Pretty much it's clear. This is just a $1 sifter, like a little, I don't know what you call it,
A strainer?
strainer, yeah. Okay. Then I'm gonna put a couple of these together so I can lay them down in the bed again. And lay it down. And lay them back in. So now we're gonna go for that super crunch. You think that's good?
Yeah.
Yeah, no? Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. I can do 3 batches.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch there.
You want me to do them all or no?
Hey, if there's people that are willing to eat them, no problem. So it's all of 2 minutes. They float right up the top. And they are ready. See that? Ready to come out. Yep. And that's how we do them. And I like to do them in batches because I usually have people waiting for the shrimp. So the first batch is somebody and somebody else. And then the other batches, they usually share it. And then they come back and say, when's the rest of them ready, you know? Okay, great. Popping them right in. I'm gonna do about 10. I think, ish. One more. That should work.
I'm getting faster.
All right.
I'm in the rhythm.
Yeah. It's looking great. Let me go wash my hands over here real quick. Take off this glove. Grabbing that. Ooh. That smells something okay. We'll get to that in a minute. Yeah. So this is our first batch. And no self-respecting soul food woman will prepare fried shrimps without a dip. So my sister and I came up with a quick dip, which pretty much consists of sweet chili sauce, a little bit of relish, and some mayonnaise. And pretty much mayonnaise is kind of like 75% of the cup. And you get just a little bit to your taste of sweet chili. It's not hot. It's just a little bit sweet. And then you usually put in it, what else did we put in it? I have this thing for onion powder, granulated onion, whatever. I love that onion flavor. So that's something that we put in there too. If you wanted to, you can crack some fresh cracked pepper in there. It's fabulous. If you like it a little bit sweeter, add a little bit more relish. If you don't like relish, take it out. We've had it with just, mayonnaise and hot sauce. There you go. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, so this is the second batch. I'm going to give that a little rest. And you may say to yourself, just fry it up as it is. But I'm telling you, if you take the time, wait that minute or two, and then put it back in. I don't know scientifically what it does, but all I know, it comes out crispier. So that's what's going on. So I'll wait a minute and stick it back in. So, any other questions? I got you working so hard. Well, I could talk a little bit about, the whole, my love for fresh foods and.
Yeah. So how did you get into doing this? Like, what made you want to be a chef and cook this kind of food?
Growing up, I thought, why do we have to go down south every summer, Mommy? My mother and father would send us for the summer to South Carolina. And as soon as we arrived, we pull up in a car, that old station wagon. I could see my grandmother bent over, pulling up her collard greens, okra, and turnip greens, turnips. She was just in her garden. and on both sides. My father's parents were from South Carolina, and my mom's parents were from South Carolina. So immediately we take our coats off and we go right out there to help her. And I mean, I just loved it. You know, as a kid, I think that's what it kind of got my cooking sense together. Now, my grandmother would not let anybody in her kitchen to cook but her. But I sure enough could get an eyeball full of what she was doing, you know. So I would watch her. And soon after that, we would go to my other grandma lived, my father's mother lived just like 2 counties nearby. So we would pop over to her house, and lo and behold, she's in her garden doing what she's. I think that's really what pulled me in. She'd be like beans and everything, because my grandmother on my father's side, she had 13 children. 13 children. And all, I think it was like 7 or 8 guys, and the rest women. So now, if you like yours a little bit on the lighter side, you can pull it out. I like a little brown to mine, you know. The next group is coming in. Huh? I wish I had one of those spider things.
Oh yeah,
But-
we
But it
do
could never
have
really
one.
fit in that, you know.
Yeah, no.
Like, I think it'd be more of a mess than
Yeah.
success. So, I'm gonna look it up. You should be ready. 1, 2, 3. So that got me started, and then I grew up here in Jamaica Plain. And when I grew up was in the 70s, and they had a lot of co-ops that were, maybe the one that I knew that was just down the street. So they had like CSAs, you know what I mean, where you could go and you could just pay for shares of your local, just a lot of farmers that were from around here. And we used to go out to the local farms, don't ask me the names of them, and we used to pick and help cultivate the foods, and it was a learning experience for an 8-year-old girl, you know, to come out of the city and to go out that far. I'll let those go. And I think that's what kind of got it started for me. And then, what else? Let's go move this over here. I just like being around my mom when she was in the kitchen, because my mom had 5 children at the time. The last one wasn't until later, until I was almost grown, and there was much to do. So definitely much to do. So from the age 8, I was already helping wash dishes, you know, to rinse out rice, you know, to thaw out foods properly, different things like that. She put me to task real early in the kitchen. And I loved it, but I never in a million years thought about cooking on a professional level. Never. I spent 30 years in early education and care. So both my mother and I think my mother's pushed more like 40. So what I did was I would always cook. They were like, you know what, homemade meals are best. I had 6 children in my program, so I started making food, and then I would kind of give it to them to take home, and then the parents would call back and say, listen, he won't eat my spaghetti. He says it's not Miss Michelle's, and so could you please make some so that he can eat, you know? And I started doing that, and then they're like, can you make some fried chicken for us? And then I'm like, I didn't even get the hint. I honestly didn't. So a friend of my mother's, her church had a space, a restaurant. It's been a restaurant or a cafe for 60 years. So they were about to renew their lease. So I said to myself, you know what? That's a wonderful place. We need soul food in Boston. There's not too many. It's kind of like a soul food desert. There's probably like a handful at the time. And so they had said in passing to my mother, Miss Annie, you cooked for us for years. Why don't you open up a restaurant? And she laughed and laughed. And she said, you know what? If my daughter says, if she does it with me, I'll do it. You know, so she came back to me, and I had already enrolled here.
Oh.
Yeah, and community service because I wanted, at 45, I wanted to retire. And I wanted to do something different because I had worked with children since I was 18. 17 probably, yeah. So I know for my mom it was a little, she was like, you know what, let me ask my daughter. And she asked me and I was like, okay. I said, why not, let me see, but I had no idea. I thought it was just a small little spot with a window I could push the food through. And yeah, you know. And then when I got there it was 34 chairs. I was like, what? You know, so it was a rude awakening. You know, but I never had so many people just come up to me and say, we need you. We need soul food in this community. And the fact that it was really, really homemade, like literally the pots that we had from home, we just moved them right into the cafe. Because we were already cooking at that volume at home because all of my mother's children live here in Massachusetts. Here in Dorchester, you know, so I think for me it was kind of natural.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, going on. So I just separated a little bit if they're kind of stuck together, but I can tell by the way it's kind of cooking at the. I'm not sure which one it is.
Oh, I can never remember.
I know that one is up. Okay. Oh, there we go.
So, while your shrimp are frying, do you want to talk a little bit
Yes.
also about what's in the pot?
Yes. So let me take these out.
Okay.
If you want to open up the pot.
Sure. Is this hot?
Yes. I don't think so. It never really is. But then again, I'm immune.
A little bit hot.
Yes. So if you come in quick there.
Oh boy, that looks amazing.
Yes. That is the turnips that are boiling down. You can always tell that the turnips are done when it kind of gets opaque on the edges and then kind of, it doesn't take long. I usually put the turnips in for the last 20 minutes of the cooking.
Okay. And if someone can't find turnips or something, is there a substitute?
I mean, if you can't find turnips, then you probably won't get rutabagas either. But
Okay.
Because rutabaga is more like a root vegetable.
Yeah.
You
I was
know?
just gonna ask if like a different root vegetable might work in there.
Yeah, I would use anything. If you don't have turnips, then
Could you use carrots? Could you use like...
if you like, yes. If carrots is your thing. And also with that, I have the smoked meat. Now, the smoked meat is a cut up. It's like a whole smoked turkey wing. But what I do is I have my girls cut it up so they can kind of fit in there. And once I boil it separately,
Yeah.
I take the water and that's what I cook it in.
Oh, okay.
And then I take the bones away from the meat and I take the skin off because there's nothing really good happening with the skin of smoked stuff. It's kind of difficult and once you put it in here it gets soggy. So that's something that I do, and at the end of it I use a little pat of butter. Just a little pat because fat pretty much, turnip and turnip greens can be kind of bitter. You know what I mean? So some people like to bump up the salt a little bit. But since we have the smoked meat in there, we can't really do that. So the smoked meat will take out most of the kind of bitterness. But then I would add just a little bit of sugar if that's something you need, like a half a teaspoon or something like that. This is a big pot right here. This is not sticking according to it would normally be half. But when the greens are in there, it's about that tall. And then see how it goes down, and it's kind of like 60% of what you would put in there is what you
Right.
get.
Oh yeah, no matter
Yes.
what green you start with.
Yes.
Big bag of spinach comes out this
Yes.
big.
Now you could use, if you want to, you can use any kind of greens. Collard, turnips, mustard, kale,
Yeah.
any kind of kale. I'm trying to think of more. The only thing I really wouldn't do this with is spinach. You
Yeah,
really
you
wouldn't
cook
cook
it
it that
too
long.
long,
Yeah.
yeah.
You don't have to cook
So
it
like
that
any
long.
really hearty green like that would work.
Yes, yes. And to be cooking this, an hour, and that's because I started out slow, you know. So you want to say really like 40 minutes, and then you throw in the turnip bottoms, and then you for the rest.
Okay.
But this was so much, so this is double the recipe. So it would be even like 40 minutes totally
Yeah.
done. Because you really don't want to cook out all the nutrition and everything that's in there that's helpful and beneficial, you know, to you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, a lot of the vitamins will go into the water, which is
Yes.
why I think people drink that pot liquor
yes,
because
can't
that's where
waste it. Yeah,
all the vitamin C will go in there and the B
Yes.
vitamins.
yes. And then I just left that part, just to let you know it was a real turkey part there. But what I'm gonna do, as soon as we get this out and that, then we're gonna plate up.
Awesome.
So, this is what we're gonna use. There's 3 of them.
Just in case it didn't fit.
That's right.
You never have too many plates.
I would love to have those plates. Because, you know, we're in the restaurant business. A lot of the stuff that we do have, it's more like the tin pans and things like that. If I'm going to really cook a lot of shrimp or a lot of chicken, you should see when people order the chicken, it's like chicken up here, chicken up there. It's just like 150 pieces here, 150 pieces, you know, 300 pieces or something like that. So we have the platters. So I'm going to throw in the next one. Would you like to drop in the next one as soon as I get these out?
Sure.
No, because we're done.
Sounds great.
All right. There you go. So, this is what I'm going to do. Put it back in that way. I forgot how noisy those bad boys are.
Yeah.
I call my ventilation system the beast. Because when you turn it on, it's like your hair blows back, you know. I might, whoops, I dropped 2. I might throw in that.
Okay. So they're telling us we're going to have to wrap it up pretty quickly
Yep,
because
we're
we're
done,
going
we're
to
ready.
need this room for packaging meals pretty soon.
So right here, so we can go in and plate up the turnips right now. As soon as I put these on, and then we will be ready. And this is kind of odd, kind of weird, but I really don't eat shrimp that much. My family, they torture me, they make me, there's nothing wrong with shrimp. I mean, I love it. But I love feeding people. I don't know if people kind of get it, you know, it's feeding people is my love language.
I'm right there with
So
you.
I'm just full feeding people. And people have to tell me, like my sister, you have to eat.
Yeah.
So we're
Can't
gonna,
pour from an empty cup.
yes. So let's go ahead and throw out some of these while that's frying. There's no rhyme or reason. Just put it on the plate.
All right. Well, while Michelle is plating that up, I just want to say thank you again for joining us for our special soul food edition of Learning Kitchen. And we had our guest, Michelle White, coming from Next Step Soul Food Café in Dorchester. And I hope you enjoyed watching this. And let us know if you have any questions. Just drop them in the comment box, and we will be sure to answer them. Wanna say any last things?
Oh no, manja, enjoy virtually. There you go.